Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. The concept of a speech from the throne in Canada. So here's a few reasons why it kind of kicks ass and a few reasons why it fucking sucks. So right off the bat, a speech from the throne is where the Prime Minister decides to call on their own they ask the Governor General to end the sitting of Parliament, which means all legislation in Parliament is killed. It's off the table. It's wiped, clean slate, tabula rasa, go fuck yourself. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. This is an aspect of a speech from the throne fucking sucking. In terms of then what happens with a good aspect of the speech from the throne, it allows for a sort of reset of government priorities and to realign, hopefully, with broader Canadian values and to basically serve as, to use modern parlance, a vibe check for Parliament, and if Parliament is actually willing to continue with the current party that is in power. A speech from the throne is basically thrown together by the government, they outlist their priorities, and it is read from the throne by the Governor General, or in very rare circumstances, Her Majesty herself when she's visiting. And so what you have in that case is the government laying out its future plans and priorities. This then, goes out and the parties will have their official responses after the speech from the throne. This is why, if you're Canadian, you remember seeing after the recent speech from the throne, you had the political leaders of the NDP, the Conservative Party, the Bloc Québécois, and the Green Party all responding to the government's proposals that were read from the speech from the throne. And then what happens after that is the parties sit, they mull, they talk with their war rooms and strategists, and they decide whether or not they are going to continue to give the government the support of the House of Commons. Now, here's the thing. This only works if you have a minority government, not really a majority government. And that's what we're going to talk about next and how that's partially different from the American system and the Canadian system. So, in terms of a speech from the throne, and if the government continues to enjoy the support of the House, as in the House of Commons, if the speech from the throne is supported, then yay, government continues and we don't have a snap election. But if people decide, the other members of Parliament that are not part of the government, if these other parties decide, you know what, no, we don't support this speech from the throne, then hey, you know what? Maybe we get an election and Canadians can voice their displeasure and then there's a new shakeup. But this is why we got to talk about minority and majority governments real quick. So in America, the terms are a bit different, right? You have House majority, House minority leader, and you have Senate majority and Senate minority leader, which means whoever's kind of leading the largest party, they get to kind of be the speaker of that house. That's kind of the general way it works. In Canada, it is different. So you have the government, which is led by the Prime Minister and the party, in this case it's the Liberals, and then you have Her Majesty's loyal opposition, which is whoever has the next highest showing after the election. And they usually create what is called either a shadow cabinet, which is like, if we were elected, this is who would be in which position, or ministry. Like, we have departments, we have ministries, it's weird. And they also have, if you're in opposition, what are called critics. So, environmental critic, they criticize whatever the environmental minister is saying or doing. This is kind of how it works, and it's a way of keeping the parties accountable. In terms of how it works with a majority or minority government, this is a fundamental difference. A majority government means that a majority of the seats in the House of Commons have been taken by a single party. Previous governments have, gotten majorities, or they have been reduced to minorities. So what's a minority government? A minority government in Canada is where you have a government that does not have a majority of the seats, but currently enjoys the support of the House of Commons, which means there's at least one other party supporting them. That's what's happening. So right now, Justin Trudeau has a strong minority government, but it's still a minority government. If the other parties decide, no, we're not going to support this, then the entire House of Cards falls down and we have to have a new election, which is why there's the speech from the throne and why people were wondering, are we going to have a federal election in a pandemic? But we didn't, because they survived. They enjoyed and continue to enjoy the support of the House of Commons. Mostly this comes from the NDP and ostensibly the Green Party and sometimes the Bloc Québécois. It's complicated, which is why we're going to talk about that in the next video, about the different Canadian political parties and how that's also another difference between the Canadian and American system. But a lot of Canadians don't fully understand these parties and why some get more votes despite less vote shares. But I'm going to talk about that next time. But the fact that there are people who continue to think that Canadian politics are, super complicated, terrible to understand, great difficulty. No, this is fairly simple stuff in terms of understanding how our country works and operates politically. And the fact that more people don't realize this, or quite frankly care about this, is definitely what's bothering me today.